Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the RWASOW Podcast. It is episode number 12, and it's our usual week round up the football matches and all that. So, to kick us off, we have Arsenal Spurs, which finished up 2-1 which included an unbelievable goal from Eric Lamela. That was a bit of a nasty strike in the box. Spurs too negative?
Well, they lost. Obviously, they're losing the mail then late in the second half with a hit in the face of, I forget who. I think it might have, was it Saka or something, or was it Tierney? I forget who he hit in the face, but it was a questionable penalty as well. It was really late. It was he'd already hit and swung the ball, mishit it. The ball was going away from him, and then he was tackled late. But it was a tackle that he was already in process. So I don't know whether it was negative from Spurs, but I think they just fell apart a bit.
I think Spurs were too negative compared to the games beforehand. Much fluid football, and it seems as Mourinho's went into a big game. He just went back to his old self. Shatner fell in workouts. He was disappointed too with the way Spurs came out and played. Myself, I fancied Spurs on Sunday, but Arsenal deserved to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Lamela going off later in the game. Of course, he only came on for Heung-min Son, who's now injured. Is that a long-term injury, or was it just a knock he picked up?
I haven't seen anything about it.
I haven't heard, but I mean, if that is...
I think that's my prediction of Spurs going fourth, gone.
Yeah, well, I'm much the same in my predictions.
It was a very bad prediction, I'd say, in the circumstances.
I mean, Arsenal with no Aubameyang, but it still seemed to click. It seemed to work out well. That was a disciplinary.
He was late for the match. He was late on for the match, and then Arteta said he just wasn't playing then.
I mean, I sort of understand.
Not his first time, supposedly.
I sort of understand, making an example, and maybe Arsenal might have been a better side, not a better side, but worked better in this match without him. But he's still arguably one of their best players. But then I suppose nobody's above the rules, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, as Lacazette said in his interview after the match, everyone has to be ready. He didn't know he was playing. I think that's the way Arsenal work. I don't think anyone's told whether they're starting or not in the next game until the day of the game.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they do. I think they just all have to be ready to play no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, that makes for an interesting sort of look at it. I mean, obviously with Leeds, I'm used to just hearing it on the press conference before each match. Bielsa basically announces it. I'm not sure about Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool seems to be the lineup is decided.
I think it's before the day before.
Yeah. So, just Aubameyang not playing was a bit of a weird one, but as I said, nobody's above rules.
You can't let them do what they want. Like you can't just strut about and take over them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, have any other observations, points about this game?
Mourinho came out again and sort of threw the players under the bus, saying they didn't show up. He never seems to take any criticism himself. He's the one told them to go out and play like that. They didn't just go out and go all negative all of a sudden. I think he needs to start taking more of the blame rather than just constantly blaming the players.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It just seems to be Mourinho's way recently, is never take the blame and give it all to the players. I suppose, I mean, moving on to Fulham Man City, which finished up 3-0 City. In a fairly, maybe not routine victory, but in the end it was pretty routine. I know that Fulham actually started off quite well.
Yeah, 100%. They came out swinging. They played really, really, really good first half. They were defending well and they were getting some attacks in. I think just once Stones got that goal, I think they just fell apart. It was really hard to watch, like, because after watching them play such good fluid football together for so many weeks now in a row, conceding 3 goals in 13 minutes is about heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. I agree, Klein. It's just probably hanging in there that long in the first half. Once you can see that first goal, it just zaps all the energy out of you, and you probably thought you were getting your confidence up, thinking maybe we can get a result here, and then that one goal just leads on then to a quick 2 and 3, and it's game over.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously City very good or whatever, but Fulham wise, as you said, Klein, sort of 3 goals in 13 minutes, and also we'll come on to the results during the weekend. Do we think this is not a nail in the coffin, but I know there's still 9 games to play, still a lot to play for, but it seems to be coming a little bit tougher for Fulham each week by week.
Well, yeah, the schedule at the minute's been a bit rough, but I think when it clears up a wee bit now, and I think with the teams that are coming up, they're playing bigger sides as well. The other teams at the bottom, I believe. I think Liverpool play a couple of them in the last couple of weeks. So I think they will be fine and safe because there's teams there that are playing matches against each other now, and they're just gonna be maybe 1-0 ones to the people at the bottom of the table, and they're just gonna slowly deteriorate. But I think Fulham as a side are going to be able to keep it up. I think really.
Yeah, I think we've seen enough from Fulham, showing that they have the capability of staying up. I still think they will.
Yeah, and so to go to the other extreme in terms of City, obviously progressed to Champions League quarterfinals on Tuesday night. In terms of, they're obviously still in the FA Cup. They have the League Cup final coming up. They're far ahead in the Premier League, and they still in the Champions League. What are the chances of a City quadruple this season? As maybe reactionary of a question that might be.
Well,
go ahead, Claire.
You go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm going to say no chance. This could come back to bite me. But it's just we hear that quite often. Time City, this quadruple just hasn't happened. I wouldn't be surprised if they won. They do win a couple of them.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, and you need a lot of luck. If they do pull it off, fair play, but I just can't see it. They'll have an off day.
I think it's. Oh yeah. I think what it's going to come down to is to who they get tonight in the draw for the Champions League. I believe that is tonight.
Tomorrow
even. It's going to be very interesting because no one said it's luckily we'll probably get someone along the lines of Porto or something like that there, even though Porto are playing so well. That's a team they could probably end up getting. But I think City as a team get into this mindset of when they get to high points in the Champions League, I think they just end up overthinking it. And I think they end up playing out of their system, which is a really weird thing to say. I think they've done it a couple of times when you get to the Champions League and they get the opponent that they find they need. When they get to a tough opponent, they end up, for whatever reason, changing their system a bit, and it just doesn't work. It's been happening under a couple of times with Pep that I've noticed. They just seem to fall apart. But maybe since they've had a really strong season this year, as usual, most of the occasions. So I think it is possible, but I don't think they'll get the Champions League, to be completely honest.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I'm not sure. I haven't really. I just thought of it there while I was making my notes. Yeah, I think it is so tough. But I suppose if any team was going to sort of do it with the squad that City have and the depth that they have, they're probably the best equipped for it. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it could make for an interesting end of the season, I suppose, if you're a Man City fan. But yeah, moving on to Wolves Liverpool, the current champions. Liverpool won 1-0. Diego Jota back in the team and back on the score sheet. Came back to bite his former side in the backside. Wolves played well. It seemed an even enough game.
You want to go with Herbert?
I'll go. Wolves started off very bright. We came out quite slow and panicky. Weren't really comfortable on the ball. I think as the game went on, we took more control. Wolves did play well, but they didn't look. There was no serious threat. They had a few half chances and things like that, but we could have had a few more goals ourselves. The game just didn't take the chances. There wasn't much to say in the game. Obviously, there was a few things. Wolves, you could say, maybe could have got a penalty. Might have avoided one there. Then, thankfully, Patricia was okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was good 3 points. Small news, tough place to go.
Yeah, 100%. It was great to see Jota getting on the score sheet again after being out for that long period of time. I was really impressed with some of the defending from some of the players. Again, Nat Phillips again playing amazing, great defending. Loves a header. There was some really good standing up play. I think we really did that well compared to when we have had other fast wingers coming against the Trent and Robbo. I think we did really well. They stand them up and they hold them off a bit more. Trent got back a lot quicker on some occasions. Some occasions I was nervous at the back because there was things like Cody up there, Trent marking Cody on headers, which was scary as well. Fabio Silva got for a couple, but the penalty, I don't think it was a penalty if they were trying to call for it. We might have got away with one, but I didn't think it was. But yeah, it's a great performance from a lot of players in that team. A lot of players bringing their form back together. So I'm happy to see it.
Kabak too was great again. I think he's growing each game. He's getting more confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a bit. This might sound condescending, but I don't mean it in a condescending way towards Klopp and Liverpool. I mean, it's mad what playing two natural centre halves beside each other can do for a team. And I understand like Fabinho in front of them obviously makes a big difference. But maybe Klopp's finally realised that playing midfielders in there isn't working. Obviously, it's it was for that long. What you mentioned Fabio Silva there for Wolves. What was he like? I mean, we've questioned him over the weeks recently. Did he offer enough? Did you think?
I was glad to see him coming on. Like it didn't put any fear in me at all. Him coming on, we've seen what he's really young. He doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't put any fear into me. Him coming on. That was about it. Really, he had one header, but it was straight at Alisson. That was about it.
It went off his shoulder in the end.
Yeah.
It was. I don't think either of them did really anything. William Jose or him when they were playing. It was just I think near the end, Wolves were getting up there, and it was a bit iffy as some of who was marking who in the box, but I think we coped with it well in the end.
Throwing him on too, it's probably a bad scenario. Like Nat Phillips. You just be too would bully him. We just be too strong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, William Jose could put up more of a fight.
Yeah. So it's once again the sooner Wolves get Rahman is back, the better. They have that much more of a focal point up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, talking of strikers, who I mean, I'm happy to. Anything more? Any other points you want to add? Or
Yeah,
No, happy enough.
Yeah, I mean, speaking
No.
of strikers who, one striker had a bad weekend and Fabio Silva didn't have a great game. To another striker who had an unbelievable game, granted against a very, very poor opposition, Iheanacho at Leicester, who got a hat-trick. Leicester won 5-0 obviously in the game. They were ruthless, yes, but do we think they could have had more? Could it have been for, pushing further?
Very easily.
Mm-hmm.
They played Leicester played absolutely brilliantly. As I've said for a good couple of weeks now, Iheanacho was really impressive. I think he's finally, as I said before, getting his game time now, and he's showing what he couldn't do at City. And what he hadn't done for a long time at Leicester when they had him. I think it's a thing that we put forward that it was either going to go two ways at Sheffield, and then it's gone the way we all expect. It's gone the way we expected them, just they crumble.
Mm-hmm.
I found it very odd that they just went in with the exact same system that had been losing them so many games. I thought they might have changed it up. Maybe the next game they'll do that because they didn't have that much time in between. But I thought they might have tried to do something different, but obviously not.
Sorry,
he arrived on the game. He arrived on the day of the game, I think.
Did he?
I don't think he
right.
or something like that. He had to go through COVID testing or something.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Even still,
Right, okay.
Be that as it may, I don't think Heckingbottom is good enough to go in. I mean, it's not as if there's such a thing as Heckingbottom Ball, or he has an identity where he's known for playing a certain style of football. I don't really know what football he plays, but it'll not be very enjoyable for Sheffield United fans to watch. We obviously said that. We said last week that Wilder was able to get the players to play for him, but that's they had an XG of 0.07 or something out there by the end of the game. They had one shot in the entire game. Have the players maybe even seeing Chris Wilder got sacked? Have the players sort of been like, right, we're doomed?
Could be a point to put forward, but I think even at that, Premier League players should have the professionalism to keep playing.
Yeah.
Even if in the situation of all the management sacked and we're like, oh, we're going down, they should still be giving out their all every game to try and stay up. But I think they're just all disheartened now at this point. I think it's kind of like where you're getting beat down, you're beaten down, and you just end up, that's it and finished. There's one way walk away from it.
They're better putting Jason Tyndall as the manager rather than the number two. Like what Heckingbottom's done, they deserve that job. At least Tyndall, he was with Bournemouth and Eddie Howe. At least they played a bit of football.
Yeah.
Something like that. But bringing in Heckingbottom was just crazy.
Yeah.
The players probably know that themselves as well. They should still be playing. They're getting paid enough. They should be playing, trying to put some effort in, but they probably know themselves thinking, he's not the man.
Yeah, I suppose it's not even the professionals. It's you're getting paid, thousands of pounds a week to do something that most people would give their left leg to do. At least put in a bit of a shift or try something,
Yeah.
Just must be quite disheartening and quite worrying actually for Sheffield United that their first game, their players didn't even, there wasn't that sort of first game syndrome, so to speak, where they start playing for this new manager to try and earn their spot. There wasn't even that. It was just the same old, if not worse, actually.
The only thing you could say is it's a really tough game for them to start out under a new manager, but that doesn't make up for it. But it's a tough start.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd have if the players should have ran their socks off, and even if it was 5-0, but if you run your socks off and put in about a grind, maybe it's 3-0, and that's more respectable. But to lose 5-0 and not even threaten the Leicester goal or threaten them in any way is just
it's
not inexcusable. It's just shocking.
Like a bit icing, they couldn't get out. They were just hoofing it, and they literally could not get out.
I think too the substitute decision that they made were a bit odd as well. Like bringing on Ndai, I think he's a young fellow, and then bringing on Musette, two players that don't play any football for Sheffield, and they've got two other strikers on there that have, even though they're not, in my mind, well, Rian, they're not Premier League strikers, but they're still be able to put in a shift. McBurney, I know we don't really class McBurney as being that good, but they're bringing these players on. Like people like Bogle and all, they're all sitting on the bench. Players that have been able to put in some amounts of shifts, not even not for Sheffield, but even for other teams. Players that you know that are there that could do something. But I don't understand the subs either. They even try and put on a shift.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about their new signings, sort of Ryan Brewster, Jaden Bogle. Apparently, Chris Wilder didn't. Chris Wilder did all their dealings in terms of got transfers done and everything, and apparently didn't want to work with the director of football, which I think it's just a bit of a not a dinosaur mentality, but it's like director of football are there to help. Use them, they know what they're doing most of the time. So for him to not want to work with one or not be willing to, it was just a bit weird. That's what I heard anyway. Sorry.
They mentioned
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
They mentioned in commentary about this has supposedly been rumbling on for months with Wilder, and thinking has that got into the players' heads? Like there's uncertainty here with the manager, and that's led to how poor they've been. It could be a factor. As we say, like Wilder, he's always in his press conferences saying he doesn't have money, he can't do this, can't do that. Like no other manager comes out that openly and has a go with the owner type thing.
But then when you look at that, there you have to think about his decisions that he made and the people he did buy, because arguably last season Baldock and Edna Stevens were two of the best wing backs in the league performance wise, not true, not actual in your mind. But then he goes out and buys two new wing backs from Derby. He goes and buys Lowe and Bogle, and I don't really understand when you had so many different holes in that team, and especially in their midfield. I know he went and bought Rian. Then they just didn't play Rian. they bought all these players just to not play them. There was no real thought in my mind about it. Like bringing on all these like Lowe and Fotheringham and Bogle, Rian. These players were never getting any chances. And I think it was just an odd thing to do to buy players that you were never going to start when it's a team that need starter positions.
Yeah. I think we've covered. Actually, we've more than covered. I think Sheffield United and Leicester that game, and we haven't really talked about Leicester, but that's not taking anything away from Leicester. It was just such a routine. It was a good performance, good hat-trick by Nacho, who did a really nice interview afterwards. About he dedicates that all the mums out there, which I thought was quite sort of shows that it's a touch of class from somebody who's doesn't have any class but is
sure they're human beings.
Yes, exactly. That's it, spot on. So yeah, talking of sort of players that you sign, don't play, and then get sacked for, we move on to Chelsea, who drew 0-0 with Leeds. For being a 0-0, for being a draw, it was a bloody excellent game anyway. Obviously, I thought it was good, but even for neutral, personally, I thought Leeds. I was not disappointed. I thought that a point was obviously it's a good point, but after the game, I sort of looked back and thought we maybe missed a bit of an opportunity because we arguably had the better chances than Chelsea. What do you think? Or what do you think?
Yeah, from watching the match, it was really good. Melia made some brilliant saves again. Doing really well. I was very scared when the ball came back off your own crossbar again for another OG nearly. And then there's the same happening at Chelsea too off Mendy. Unfortunately, he landed on top of the ball and not hit him on the back. It was a really decent game. It's maybe not really a different shit. Maybe when Rodrigo came on, the question of the style he's were continuing to play between different from him being up front and being from Bamford up front. I know Leeds is a continuous cycle of the same. It's not the same football, but it's good football. But I think maybe if he went on the midfield and maybe pushing Tyler Roberts up front might have made a different change to maybe getting the chances that you were producing. But you did very well, and you were unlucky not to get a goal. Both sides were unlucky not to get goals, but it was a very, very enjoyable game to watch.
It was good. It was a good battle. Was it like a Sunday league game? Like the weather was rough, and both teams were getting stuck in. They cancelled each other out. Both teams could have won very easily. That was good. It was good from Leeds. I expected Chelsea to win the game. I think most people did, especially the way Chelsea are playing. But Leeds fought well. I think other big moments. Leeds, especially the second half, they had a few chances around the 6-yard box. You expect them to put them away, but just didn't happen. And another day they'll go in. Havertz had about how many chances and couldn't take any of them.
I mean, no, absolutely. He had good chances, but they were chances that then Leeds sort of swarmed around him. I mean, there was also that one where Calvin Phillips started to run away, which
was
was very silly. But that was literally the only mistake Calvin Phillips made. I think he was immaculate and immense in that midfield, and made Mason Mount look like the player he is. I thought, I mean, in terms of, I thought every player was unbelievable, but I thought Harrison on the left hand side, we swapped him and Rafinha around, and that gave Ayling a bit of help because Rafinha was tracking back, but he wasn't willing to do it as quickly as Harrison. Harrison just pocketed Ben Chilwell, which wouldn't be hard to be fair. And Ayling and the rest of the defence were all unbelievable, but the real battle was Dallas and Kante in the middle of the park, just ran forever. I did think that Kante was actually Chelsea's best player in the midfield. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I wasn't watching enough. Not watching enough of Chelsea. I wasn't paying enough attention to the rest of the players, but I thought Kante was very good in that midfield. What did we think in terms of Chelsea's best player?
I actually think Chelsea's best player was Christensen, because in that first half, he did some great work and making sure you were offside. He did some great step ups, especially the first one with Bamford running in behind. Bamford ran in through in between him and Chilwell, and then he was able just to spot that and just slowly and just quickly step up and make him offside. I think he played very well. A bit of a weird opinion, I think at this, to be completely honest, looking at it, I think Kante at this stage is slowing Chelsea down. Not in the fact that he's not. I'm saying in the point of he plays a slower style of football, and he's not. He's a great player, great defensive midfielder. Obviously one of the best in the world. But I think the way Chelsea are playing now, with all the people they brought in, and I think he might be slowing them down a bit, but he's still a good player. He still was one of the best performers on the day.
Everyone thought Pulisic, I think, was Chelsea's best player. He was kept doing the big diagonal over him, and he looked at wing back position. He was dangerous, like he's lightning quick, going forward. Like he looked like he could create anything for Chelsea, and he was up on that end of the pitch. In terms of Kante, sort of Chelsea, since I think Tuchel's come in, I think in general the football has been really slow until they get it up to the top part of the pitch. The amount of times they go backwards, some amount of times, their centre halves and goalkeeper and sideways. I think Kante's always something. People say Kante is a great player, but he's never really been known for his passing or shooting like that. So it's just without the balls what he's known for. And obviously he's not the player that he was a few years ago. Like I think he has took a step back. That's really about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have to say, I think Kante is now playing his way back into some of his best form. I don't think he or anyone will reach the peaks that he reached whenever he won the league with Leicester and then went to Chelsea. I thought that for 2 years was the best midfielder in the world by some distance, or not, maybe not best midfielder, best defensive midfielder first by some distance. But I thought in terms of transition as well on Saturday, I thought Jorginho, did nothing. I don't remember him touching maybe he passed at the odd time, but I don't remember him doing anything of note. It was sort of passed on to Kante. One Chelsea player I want to talk about though is I messaged a Chelsea fan after the match, and I asked him genuine question, what do we think of Ziyech? And he said, thought he was class at the start of the season, showed signs of his quality, but recently seems like he doesn't click with the players and has been awful. Really lightweight and not physical enough, which has made him injury prone too, which I completely agree with, because I looked at him at one stage and there's nothing to it. Like literally his arms are just straight. Like even compared to Alioski, there's nothing to Alioski. Alioski made him looked quite big in comparison to him. It definitely is. Do we think it is the physicality that is the reason he's not doing quite well, or do we think it is the ability maybe?
I do think it would be physicality, because we've seen what he can do at Ajax. We've seen how good he can be with them in the Champions League. I think it's happened to a lot of players coming into the league, as we've seen with a good couple of players at Chelsea as well. I think the style change between those leagues, because if you look at the Eredivisie, there's only 4 or 5 teams out of the whole league that you would say would be contenders for that title. I think it's a lot more fluid football in the Eredivisie. I think a lot of the Premier League, can be a lot of break-up play and quick switches in possession. I think in the Eredivisie there's a lot more holding on. You can hold on to the ball a lot more for those bigger sides, because they're that much of a standard difference between them and teams in the league. I think he's more of a flair player. He has had some good spots. I must say, at the start when at Chelsea, he did have some good spots when he was playing. But I think it's now catching up to him, and the fact that he hasn't played as much matches now at the minute, and he's just not getting the experience on.
I think he is lightweight. I think he's another one about, like, in terms of position. I don't know, I'm not sure where they play him. I actually play him out in the wing, but I don't think he's the pace to be a winger. I think he'd be far better in that in behind role. He's got great feet, got a great strike. He can find a pass. I think players like that are far better in behind. He's that Coutinho type, not exactly exact same. Coutinho's great with his feet and can shoot and stuff like that. And Coutinho sort of played out in the wing at times also at Liverpool, but he was far better in the middle of the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where Ziyech could be best placed, but that could be another player. We just bought him for the sake of it. They had no plan, just bought him because he was there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As you said, Harper, whenever Pulisic came on, there was a lot more on that side. I was a bit more afraid. Obviously, Pulisic has that yard of pace, and maybe it was because he also had Reece James backing him up now, or just Reece James came on. Sorry. But yeah, I think Ziyech's more suited to the middle, but then the issue is playing him in the middle. How do you get him in there?
Yeah.
There's just so much competition in that middle spot at Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many players that can play that central attacking mid role. People like Havertz, people like Mount, people like Ziyech. It's hard to decide between them as to which one should play that role, and Chelsea have to make that hard decision.
Yes. So moving on from one side that's pushing for the top 4 and potentially more to another side in Man United. They played West Ham and won 1-0 in an exceptionally boring game. The fact that it was a Craig Dawson own goal that won it sort of really does epitomise how boring it was. West Ham against the bigger sides, are they? Maybe too defensive is the wrong question. maybe I don't know. Maybe it is. Yeah, okay, that's my point. Are West Ham too defensive against the bigger sides in the top six? Or against the top six, sorry.
I think, yeah, I do think that. I think with the way they've been performing this season, and they go out and they're just not giving themselves a really much of a chance. Obviously, we're missing obviously they couldn't play Lingard due to them being on loan from United, but I think even without that, the question as to why they'd gone to the 5 back, and I know they say I know they'll probably say it's a 3-1-4-2 or something, but it's a 5.
3-5-2.
It's definitely a 5-3-2.
Yeah.
But I think I think just the fact that they had players like Beramad on the bench sitting and they're playing Ben Johnson. I know he's just from what I've seen, he's a decent player, but they're just not giving themselves any chances to even get any attacking ways. It's just really it was a really depressing match to watch. Really, as Kai was saying, he watched about more of the golf than he did of the football, and I was nearly doing the same. At some points, but it was a brutal match to watch. Absolutely brutal.
It's like the FA Cup game. It was at Old Trafford. Moyes picked a really weird team as well. Honestly, he's just accepting defeat.
Mm-hmm.
Like that FA Cup game, they done absolutely nothing. And by this game, nothing again. Just maybe go there and we'll get beat. We'll just accept that. We have other games coming. Maybe thanks to more chance of getting a few points. But I don't get it. Like Noble playing as well. Lingard was obviously like Mark Noble's not going to. Mark Noble's finished. No. Like he knows that himself. He's
not
done.
Creative.
Yep. Just there's not much to say really. United, like it probably should have been more, but just the OG got them over the line.
I think what you have to look at is they're playing, as I was trying to put forward. They're playing. They put out a team there as if they were in the bottom half of the table. They're not. They're a team that's the way they've been playing realistically could have an outsider chance of maybe getting fourth position in the league. They're just, it's really weird to watch like a team that could, along the lines of you're thinking they were out there you think it was West Brom or something netting a fucking defensive side, but it's just brutal.
Yeah, I mean that's my prediction of last week of West Ham. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, of course. If West Ham qualify for the top 4, is looking a little bit less likely. United wise, do we think they've all but not secured top 4, but it would take a bit of a collapse for them to drop out of it? Or I mean, I haven't even seen the table yet. 2 seconds. Yeah, I mean, what are they? 9 points clear. I think they take a monumental collapse. What do you think?
They're safe.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see them. If they fall away from there, like there'd be a mess. Solskjaer definitely would need sacked if that happened.
100%. They're some of their. I think they need to get a grip on some of the players who they're giving a lot of game time to, but players like James, who's from what I've watched when he's been playing, he's been absolutely brutal. His counter-attack and passing has been terrible. He's putting, anytime they're on a counter-attack, I've watched him, he's been passing, anytime he's put a pass, he's put it behind them and just ruined the counter-attack entirely. But, yeah, they're 100% safe. 100% in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of teams who aren't safe or maybe are, we move on to Brighton, who won 2-1 against Southampton. But takes Brighton 3 points clear with a game in hand over Fulham. Was it the Southampton were poor, or was it that Brighton were just very good and played very well on the day?
I think it was the latter. It's good, some really good play. Trossard's goal was good. Dunk again off set pieces, very good. The championship striker obviously got a goal back, but I think it was a case of Brighton playing better on the day. It was unlucky from Southampton too, but I think it was more Brighton being the better team.
Oh, Jesus, choke there. Like I said, Brighton, they probably knew themselves they'd get their chances in this game, especially the way Southampton's been defending recently. And they knew that they're bound to take one or two of them, and they did. Especially the second goal was a brilliant finish by Trossard.
Mm-hmm.
Good football, and Brighton deserved the win. Once again, Southampton really disappointing.
Yeah.
I think Southampton sort of lucky this run started when it did. Like, it started earlier, they could have been big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if say Danny Ings leaves in the summer, goes to, I don't know,
Leeds.
just leaves. I mean, he come to Leeds if he likes. That's or say goes to say he went to Leicester or whatever. We would what and not what chance. Say Southampton didn't really replace him with a good enough player. What chance do we give Southampton next season of being above the relegation battle? And I know it's quite hard to tell from now, but I mean, say if that did happen.
Yeah. It's really weird. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. As personally, I've liked Southampton for a long period of time. Obviously, we've bought a lot of players from there. But I think, I don't think they have enough backup like other teams don't at the bottom of the table. I don't have a lot of backup players. I think that's what their problem will be next season if they do lose things. I don't think Lindelöf and Che Adams a very scary front two if they stick with that system. But you looked at that squad that played there against Brighton. Other than without Ings, that's their full strength squad. And if you were looking at that on match day against, you just wouldn't have any. You think it's an easy game to play.
Mm-hmm.
You probably look at them. Some people probably like, who are them boys? Like, even like, who are them players? I think that team and squad. I think it needs obviously it's not as simple as this, but I think it need 100 million. I think it just needs full refresh. It'll need a few talented boys in there. A few obviously like buying young, but buy boys like that even, but just know they're hopefully turn out well. But a few new fresh faces. Don't think I can go another summer spending barely nothing.
Mm-hmm. And before we move on, Spurs all right if you didn't hear so. But yes, moving on. From Spurs going out in the Europa League to Everton, who lost 2-1 to Burnley. In a massive 3 points for Burnley, but a real big banana peel slip up from Everton. They really had a chance to maybe push on and solidify their chances of European football in some capacity next season, but just made a real hash of it. And Burnley took full advantage with an unbelievable goal from Dwight McNeil to make it 2-0 in the second one. Burnley too good, or I know I asked a similar question in the last game. Burnley too good, or Everton just too defensive again?
Everton had all the possession. They were absolutely terrible in a lot of cases. I think not a single one of their players was rated above 5 in that match, even with Calvert-Lewin scoring one. I think it was really odd to watch from Everton, because obviously in recent times and throughout the season, really, other than a brief stunt, they were playing very good football. And against a team like Burnley, that is a team they should be getting all 3 points. Maybe that's the case of João Virginia playing compared to other goalkeepers. Haven't getting a start this season.
No, he came on.
It's not really.
Yeah.
He came on, did he? It's not really an excuse. Really, I know we've kind of made the same argument as it's young players playing. You can't really say much about it, but he's been at Everton for a good number of years now. He just hasn't got playing, obviously, but I think it's very questionable.
Everton were lucky. Obviously, Everton had a lot of possession. That game could have been a lot more. Burnley had a few more clear-cut chances, hit the post and stuff like that. First goal was a great finish again from Woods. They broke. It was a nice counter-attack. Strolled off Davis in midfield, who showed how bang average a player he is. Woeful. And Dwight McNeil, I sort of needed that from McNeil. If he was talking about how good he is. That was a world-class strike. And Calvert-Lewin scores and then runs away again, like his wee smug face. I think it's showing, look at me. Sore blow though for Everton, like that top four base. Sort of lets teams in around them back into it maybe.
Yeah.
Then, probably credit to Sean Dyche. That's 2 wins in Merseyside this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously Pickford went off. That's a Pickford injury, isn't it? I'm assuming.
Yep.
Because he didn't make the England squad today, which is, I mean, he shouldn't anyway, even if he is fit.
Yeah.
But it's that age-old picking a player because of maybe who they play for.
Kicking.
Yeah, distribution.
It's kicking.
And speaking of distribution, in a game where the last thing on the keeper's mind was distribution, Palace beat West Brom 1-0. Zaha, he started for Palace, as I've been calling for a few weeks, or as I mentioned the other week. West Brom, however, they have more shots, but that didn't really. Did that tell the story? Did that tell the full story?
I think it's I didn't see much of the match, to be completely honest, but I think it's just another Palace and West Brom game at this point. I think we're all thoroughly expecting them to be very boring. I think there's 2 sides that play the kind of the exact same style of football, and it's 2 very, very poor styles of football. Just the difference was Milovojevic scored a penalty. That's the entire match, really. That's all you can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't watch it. I had the golf on. It's not a game anybody's dying to sit down and watch. Like, sort of one goal probably was right. About they won it. It wasn't going to be a game packed with goals. See people saying, was it a penalty or was it not? Things like that. West Brom did have more possession, so Big Sam will probably be frustrated. Couldn't even get a draw out of it. But that just sinks him down even further into more trouble.
Yeah. Do we think Big Sam will jump ship? I think we talked about this last week. I'm not entirely sure.
Who though? I don't know.
Well, sorry, not jump ship. I mean, sorry, he'll
just leave.
Just leave. So that was I described that wrong.
I think to keep up his reputation of never getting relegated, he probably will.
It'll sort of be never done it, but there'll be a big asterisk beside it in that. Yeah, West Brom dream of 2021 was basically because of him.
He's never been relegated, and yet all the teams that he's managed during them seasons that he's left clubs have been relegated, I believe. If he could do, you never know. Big Sam, it's very. You never know. He might go down with him, but I think he thinks himself as he's that good of a manager that he'll try and get another Premier League side.
Well, like if if he did jump, if he did leave, well, I think he'd be a right scumbag.
Well,
If he just left, and obviously if they go down, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did it. I think he's probably that type of character. I wouldn't be one bit surprised.
yeah. And moving on to our final game, speaking of sort of relegation, Newcastle Villa, which finished up 1-1 in sort of, once again, another very boring game that got a wee bit feisty towards the end, I suppose. Villa, and I know we lost them 1-0 a few weeks ago, but Villa, again, sort of showing the importance of Jack Grealish to them in that they are a bit of a one-man team. But there's no shame in being a one-man team with Jack Grealish because he's that good. They've just had a bit of a poor enough spell, have they?
Well, it was realistically they should have lost that game 2-1 at the end. Jacob Murphy, I do not have a clue how he hit the crossbar. He came across, and I think he was barely outside the 6-yard box coming across goal, and he hammered it, and he just very unfortunately hit the crossbar for him. Very good end, and then luckily for him, then he got the assist to the sales at the end. But it was a very boring match and a very good ending. I think it's kind of same on the same lines as the Arsenal game against Burnley last week. A very thoroughly very boring match, and then it got very interesting. But yeah, it was very unlucky from Kieran Clark, the OG. I don't know if I didn't get a camera angle to see if Watkins' original header was going in, but he couldn't do much more. He was just trying to defend. Very unlucky for him. He was very close to the header, and it just came off him and went on his own net. Probably even worse for him after being such a long stay, after him playing so long for Newcastle as well. But it was at the end it was very good, but it was brutal.
Nicely Pat Klein that was.
Nicely put.
It was rough enough game. Sort of, you need to take your chances. Basically, we say that every week. It might feel like maybe it could be wrong. It might feel like maybe even a win for Newcastle. We're scoring that late, thinking they've no chance. That could be a big point come end of the season. Villa probably disappointing again. Probably are missing Grealish, just that confidence. But you never know. They might be happy with the point. They're probably happy enough still the way where they are on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, that was getting to our next question about next point about a massive point for Newcastle in relegation terms. And the big thing for for Newcastle and Brighton and then Fulham, of course, is that Fulham have played 29 and the other two have played 28. So it's big. My prediction from last week is beginning to take a turn for the worst, as it stands. But sorry, can I
just another point. I think it's scary I think it would be scary as a Newcastle fan as your centre half's more likely to score than any of your players in front of him. I think that's obviously we spoke about that for a long time. That's Newcastle's biggest problem. You look at that team: Joelinton, Fraser, and Gale up front. You're not scared of a single one of them players, realistically. Ryan Fraser, when he was at Bournemouth, but if you looked at that side, it's just not scary whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. Newcastle absolutely missing Callum Wilson up front. Just that bit of extra, that striking threat, I suppose, striker threat, that can get you goals. So yeah, I think any other points or observations or thoughts?
Gareth Southgate's a prick, putting it politely, but we'll leave it at
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I think some Bamford anyway might be a little bit disappointed, but I also understand why he wasn't picked. But that's for another matter. I'm sure we'll be doing a Euro special at some stage as well. But thank you very much for watching. once again. This has been episode number 12. We hope you've enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that there. And yeah, we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
See you.